Hello, what's up? It's Garson, and in my never-ending quest to get you to play Honor Mode, what I want to talk about today, and we'll just talk, it's just a level 1 dip. So for instance, a Swashbuckler with 1 level of Hexblade Warlock can really dramatically change his character. Something even simpler, like 1 level of Rogue, what does that do for us? Well, it applies expertise to some really useful skills, and we get more value out of stats we were and maybe weren't using before on a simple character. And we could do something really advanced, like 1 level of Wizard is surprisingly strong. Why is my Sorcerer all in on 20 intelligence and not charisma? So we'll just dive into it. Like I said, it's going to be a quick chat video, or at least I'll attempt to make this quick. I appreciate you guys watching all the guide videos and stuff you guys request, but it's something I wanted to talk about for a long time, and I'll try and make this snappy. Let's get into it. As always, I'll create some timestamps. But basically, why is it good? Well, let's stop for just 1 second. Again, my objective is I want to share Honor Mode with people. It's the thing that made me fall in love with the game the second time, and almost permanently. I can't stop playing this game because actions have consequences. You can't just reload. And so how you build your character matters more to me. I don't want the best, strongest character. I would rather just see you make your character the strongest and the coolest way they can be. And this 1 level can actually do a lot to do that, right? So the first thing is low cost, and the second thing is a return on that cost. So obviously you're going to have to spend 1 level to do this. These are all really simple examples in terms of 1 level versus 11 levels, but I assure you we can get really complicated. I'll keep it simple. So other than the 1 level cost, usually I kind of think of this as an additional feat beyond the list of available feats. Let's keep it straightforward with fighter. I can get 3 feats as a level 8 fighter. I would have to go to level 12 for a final 4th feat. Why not just go into a different class as my additional feat choice, right? I've already probably have the feats I need. So that's just one way I like to think of it. Another way I like to think of it is, it depends really what you're delaying on your character. A lot of fighters, paladins, they're going to delay extra attack by 1 level if they take it early. But if you think about it, Bladesinger, the new subclass for wizards, gets their extra attack at level 6, not 5. Bards get their extra attack at level 6, not 5, for, you know, whatever subclass. So you can think of it as like, I'm not really delaying it any longer than what it normally is for some of these options. And also, there's fewer features later in your class. A lot of classes and subclasses are front loaded. And to flip that, basically when we talk about a return on that cost for 1 level, a lot of classes are front loaded, right? So a lot of the features you could get, like the Hexblade here, is very front loaded with medium armor, a charisma weapon, and so much more. And you're adding so much extra utility, or a single extra utility or power, that this could drastically change what this character is. And sometimes it's better to do this early, maybe middle of the game, or later in the game. You have the choice, and when you have choice, it's not that much of a cost, or at least a really good benefit for that cost, right? You can choose when you want to change this character into something else, even with 1 level. So it changes also your spell modifier. To keep it simple, a rogue would normally have the intelligence modifier on something like Arcane Synergy or Casting Scrolls. But if I take Warlock as my next new class, now Charisma is my new spellcasting modifier for those associated things, right? And of course, your first level, when you build a character, your first level determines saving throw proficiencies and some other proficiencies. So as a rogue, if I start my first level 1 rogue and go into something totally different, I would have a bonus to dexterity saving throws. So keep that in mind. Now we're going to get into some examples. Like I said, they're all fairly simple. I'm going to start off with a pretty obvious one. This is middle of the ground. Simple, but kind of complex. What's really simple and really known about it, why it's obvious, is you get a charisma weapon at level 1. So this finesse weapon uses strength or dexterity, but when I bind it with the hex weapon, it is now a charisma weapon on accuracy and damage. You get a bonus to both of those, right? So obviously that's really cool. We can't drop the sword. It only works on melee weapons, sadly, but it's really great that we can now just focus in on 1 stat. That's where it kind of helps, or it could just change the character because of this. Maybe I'm using dialogue checks a lot, but in combat, I want to utilize my charisma for my weapon. Maybe I'm a spellcaster that uses charisma. I am as a warlock, but whatever the case, this is what it does for us. But I feel like this gets overhyped all the time, and we're missing out on something really important. To keep it brief, warlocks don't normally have medium armor, shields, martial weapon proficiency. So this subclass gives us this proficiencies. We don't have to go into fighter or paladin. If our rogue wants medium armor and shields, we can get it right here. We can even use a feat to bump that medium armor up to access to heavy armor. And shields can't be stated enough. These all have great passives plus the additional armor class. And then finally, this sounds wacky because maybe you want to use obviously the charisma weapon, but you can now use any ranged weapon, any weapon in general, you now have proficiency in, which is a big deal. So even if you weren't going to use the charisma weapon, you can now use any weapon. And that's not all. We can actually have the shield spell. Hexblade specifically gives us the reaction spell of shield, which you're going to get one level spell slot, level 1 warlock slot per short rest. So now you have something to use it on. And this can literally save your life because you can get a massive 5 armor class bonus for the whole round, and this could save you in a pinch and is a great use of the spell slot, which your character may not even give a crap about originally. So Hex Curse is also something I feel that people just don't understand how strong this is. Hexblade Curse gives you your proficiency as bonus damage, right? So if something gets applied the curse, you'll have this +4 bonus, and you'll even have better critical hit chance when they're cursed for 10 turns. There's no concentration. This randomly gets applied from your Hexblade weapon, but also you can manually guarantee this no concentration on short rest as a bonus action for 10 turns. So every short rest, maybe magic missile builds, maybe scorching ray builds, whatever the case, you can do bonus damage and increase critical hit chance once per short rest. And of course, you randomly get it with your melee weapon. So that's awesome, right? So I can't state enough how good this subclass is, but it's also still a level 1 warlock. Did I mention level 1 warlocks give you Eldritch Blast, Boomer Blade, Friendless, or not Friendless, but Friends the cantrip, advantage on dialogue checks, the short rest spell slot that comes back every short rest, right? You have access to Agathis, the hex spell, the low-key really good protection from good and evil. And then your spell modifier, like I said, changes to the charisma bonus, right? So now your scrolls, your arcane synergies, these now work with charisma if warlock was your last spell class chosen. So a really good example that gets shouted out all the time is swashbuckler, and even 1 level of warlock. We get 3 feats as a rogue at level 10, and then we get our max sneak attack damage. So what's great about this is now we can just all in on charisma since it's our spell modifier. We have arcane synergy like I was talking about. We can activate arcane synergy with the booming blade, for instance. So booming blade activates the ring. We have booming blade, that's pretty good too, right? And you love the charisma weapon because some of these sneaky dirty tricks actually use charisma as a spell modifier no matter what you multi-class. Flick of the wrist will always use charisma to disarm targets. And so you really want to be able to use your cool new moves on swashbuckler and all in on just a single stat. We don't have to worry about any other stat. And charisma does a lot outside of combat. With all the rogue expertise, we can talk to people to death like I'm doing right now, but also we can actually kill people in combat thanks to the charisma weapon. So you can really see the natural synergy in this. And booming blade is now increasing our damage, and we have friends to enhance our dialogue checks with all that major expertise, right? But since we're talking about rogues, let's simplify another good level 1 example. I'm 11 levels in fighter, so I'm already very powerful. So what rogue is going to do for me is actually get more value out of the dexterity I'm already all in on, and I can get more value out of a stat I wouldn't normally use, like charisma. So this is very simple but very important. Mainly, it's all about the expertise. For 1 level, I can double up the stars in a skill. Instead of +4, this is now a +8 bonus, making it very likely I can pickpocket or convince people with persuasion to leave us alone. So there's some other fun bonuses, but I'm really going to gloss over them because expertise is where it's at. You'll have more options to choose from, and you'll be able to apply on 2 of these skills the bonus from proficiency twice. So 4 becomes 8. And these are some really good highlights. I can't stress enough: stealth, sleight of hand, athletics actually gets glossed over a lot, persuasion, deception, and performances can actually be turned into attack thanks to something like the harmonic dueler. So just really things to think about, right? Dexterity, proficiency is also kind of important. Let's look at Gale again. His first level was Rogue, so he has a proficiency in Dexterity saving throws. So that's a nice little bonus that can keep you safe from, say, Fireball or Lightning Bolt. You do have proficiency in some weapons and light armor. And there is the Intelligence spell modifier if you care about that for scrolls or whatnot. Arcane Synergy. And you do get a little baby one sneak attack per turn, 1d6, but I really don't care about that. What I care about is the expertise, because this is simple but very powerful. 11 levels of fighter is triple attack in honor mode once per turn, and we also get basically 3 feats at level 8, right? So we really don't need that 4th feat. We can use the 1 level dip in Rogue as an additional feat, and we can take it late or early in the character, right? We only really need dexterity because I'm going all in on a ranged bow build. So I have a lot of dexterity. It does a lot for me, but I can get more value out of it. And I can even invest in a stat I wouldn't normally care, like charisma, because I have the stats to really spread around, not just dex, but even charisma. So I can now be the face of a party, the guy who talks to things, because I have expertise in persuasion and bonus from charisma. I can really persuade enemies to leave us alone, and I can even get more value out of dexterity with sleight of hand or stealth. So these are the things I'm thinking about. I now have more value out of dex, which I was already investing in, and I can invest in another stat and do something with it outside of combat. So this is what's so powerful about expertise in a subtle, very powerful way. And then let's jump over to something very advanced. Now I can make this simple for you, but there's way too many applications of this, and I'm mainly talking about scroll learning from a level 1 wizard dip. This is the most technical level 1 dip in my opinion. It's very easy to understand, honestly. It just gives you access to the wizard ability to learn scrolls if you have any, right? I've already learned all the scrolls, so you can see where this is going. So this can get extremely advanced and convoluted. I'll try to keep this simple to understand, but this changes how you see intelligence as a stat. I used to think this was the worst stat. Now I would make an argument it's one of the best. You can learn almost any scroll, almost. There are some exceptions, but you will need to have a spell slot that can learn it. If you want to learn haste, you need a level 3 spell slot. If you want to learn sunbeam, you have to have a level 6 spell slot available. Okay? And there's way too much to talk about this subject here, but to keep it simple, you need that spell slot to learn, but also you're going to want to cast it. So you would also need that spell slot to cast that. Also, it's always going to use intelligence as a modifier for accuracy on spells. And caster level meshes really well, right? You're a level 1 wizard and a level 11 sorcerer. You're still 12 levels of a caster. Again, something really more complicated I could talk about in detail, but let's just say it meshes really well with druids or clerics or sorcerer. So warlock slots can also play around with it. So not as intuitive. You can't learn spells with a warlock spell slot. I can't just learn stuff with the purple slot here, but I can cast spells with this warlock slot. And if it's high enough, let's say this was a level 5 warlock slot, I could auto upcast to a level 5 cloud of daggers, for instance, right? So non-casters can now use spells too. Well, yeah, duh. But looking at a fighter, you're only going to be able to use 11 levels of fighter and 1 wizard. What does that do for me? I can use level 1 spells? Yes, but you can also learn spells you're not supposed to using arcane cultivation elixirs. These elixirs allow you to have level 3 spell slots, level 4 spell slots, right? And so you can learn and even use a spell like haste, which Eldritch Knight wouldn't be able to use normally, right? Very interesting technique, and warlock should probably pay attention to this elixir as well, because this is your ticket to easily learning these spells and then using them with the warlock slot. That's as easy as I can make it. So let's just focus on something. Suddenly you're now an intelligence-based caster with the wizard spells here, so I'm all in on intelligence. Most characters can actually focus on 2 abilities, so let's say a fighter with some strength and then some intelligence with the dip. So int allows more spell slots or to be used and prepared per, outside of combat. And sometimes int doesn't even matter for these spells, like Conjure Elemental has nothing to do with landing my spell. I just summon an elemental. We're good to go. So you can use utility spells like Familiar, Longstrider, Disguise, or Shield, things that have nothing to do with the intelligence accuracy. And you can change the spells, like I was saying, on the fly. So if you want to use Globe for this fight, you could just swap it out. The versatility and the ability to match the occasion is what makes wizards so stupidly good. And to be able to do that at level 1 or just a level 1 dip is actually insane. So this deserves a whole video because it can get extremely complicated. I'll actually link some other videos related to it, but there's also some other benefits, I guess, but that's really not the point of the level 1 dip, in my opinion. The power here is, let's just say I went all in on intelligence as a level 11 sorcerer. So wizard gets meta magic now. That's essentially making our own new subclass for wizards. So full 12 caster, we didn't miss a beat on our spell slots. We get tons of sorcery points at the start. We can convert these sorcery points using whatever feature here. We can convert sorcery points if we need them. So we can use meta magic with wizard spells. And we just learn whatever sorcery spells that don't really need to use charisma, like haste or dimension door or misty step, and we leave all the damaging spells over to wizard, right? So intelligence is now our spell casting modifier for all of this, and we'll use our damaging spells with intelligence. We could just swap out spells being used. If chain lightning's not good, we'll use curriculum or whatever, right? And we could just as easily reverse this idea. We could have no intelligence and go all in on charisma, and the spells I'll be picking up as a sorcerer will be damaging spells, and the wizard spells would be non-damaging spells, right? Or just go both. There's no rule against that. Do you see how complicated I can make even this example? So I'll just leave it at that. So a quick shout out to the other stuff. I'm just going to gloss over this. Yes, there's spell modifiers. Yes, there's other basics like spell casting, but basically Barb does get a cool constitution bonus and 2 rages per day. Bard does get vicious mockery and bardic inspire once per long rest, a couple times per long rest. Cleric does have a lot of choices with the subclass, medium armor to start with, and tons of good spells like sanctuary and bless. Druid does get the shillelagh, the typical pact of the staff, and some good spell options. Fighter also gets the fighting style and commonly used as its first level of a character to get heavy armor. There's also Monk. Monk has a lot of cool stuff going for it. I'll just shout out the unarmored bonus. When you're not wearing any armor, you use wisdom as a bonus to armor class, and then you have unarmed attacks get a bonus. You even get a bonus action attack from unarmed. It's just a lot going on here. I think it's really underrated. Paladin, there's armor and weapons. Obviously, Paladin's another great choice for heavy armor at the first level of your character. There's the subclass oath abilities. Crown does get the accuracy boost at level 1 every short rest, and some other cool features. Ranger, I really like, just like other marshals, you get armor and weapon proficiencies, but you can choose some pretty useful resistances. You can use the familiar, you can use skill choices that give you some cool cantrips, but really I think what's cool at level 1 is the advantage. If you ever wanted to use ensnaring strike, you get advantage on holding people down. And then sorcerer, like I said, gets a boost to concentration with the proficiency here in constitution, and that's a very common thing. Take your first level in sorcerer. So obviously there's a lot of cool level 1 dips, very powerful, maybe more than you would have thought. So what's your favorite level 1 dip? Unsurprisingly, mine's probably wizard because of what's insane about it, and Hexblade does give a lot more than people give it credit for with the Hexblade curse and so on and so forth. So if there's an example you specifically want to see in a build or something, or we'll run it on stream, let me know. I'll actually link relevant videos, but I want to know what you guys think. If you want to see something really cool with the level 1 wizard, I actually made a Beastmaster level 11, Little Red Riding Hood on Shadowheart, and she had 1 level of wizard to make her an intelligence ranger, which was actually kind of cool. So this was in the Hot Chick Honor Run. Go check it out. Otherwise, just join the live stream while it's live. I like answering questions and comments in the chat anyway, because you guys are my sponsor, and I know this is a talkative video. Sometimes I just need a simple video where I can talk about a fun subject matter, and I hope it helped you build a character so you can run into honor mode with anything you want. Even 1 level of warlock can do a lot, right? So thank you for everybody who supports the channel with the $1 a month on YouTube. I really appreciate that. So go check out some of these other videos, or better than that, you know what you could do? Go play honor mode with a level 1 dip on your new character. Until then, I'll check you guys later.